All right, welcome back to Statement Games Live. My name is Nathan. I'm here with Mark, CEO of Statement Games. What's going on, Mark?
It's going all right. I mean, I guess it's a pretty interesting week. A lot of stuff kind of going on. As always,
Yeah,
some ups, some downs. We're
absolutely.
powering through.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I guess we'll get into it. We got like 45 minutes to an hour to cover everything, right?
Yeah, let's see if we can get through the stuff. As hopefully you've been watching, the shows up to this point. And we've kind of changed the structure of the show a little bit to more interview style. I'm going to be posing some questions to Mark to try and get to in depth behind the scenes of what goes into statement games, the entrepreneurship, behind the scenes, and all that kind of stuff. So with that, the big question of the week is what's going on with the platform?
Yeah.
Been hearing some problems with different functionalities. Has that had a major impact on the business? And what's the timeline to clear it up?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, these challenges, the people who have been playing statement games and been with us for a while, I think they know that this is something that's kind of like been ongoing. It's probably been ongoing for probably a little over 2 months now. Just every once in a while, the system kind of goes down. The servers need to kind of be rebooted and set up again, just to make sure that people can log in and actually play the games. And I kind of look at it and where we had like 9 lives, and we were pretty much utilizing all of them for the past couple of months. So we've talked about it on past shows. I don't think it's any particular secret. We've been very much head down, locked and loaded with accelerator programs, just an effort to get additional traction within the industry and to make a stronger name for ourselves within the sports gaming community. And in the process of doing so, there were a lot of demos that we're kind of preparing for and working on, a lot of things that we're creating for the purposes of of these demos. So the point that I guess I'm trying to make here is I had the team working on little projects in an effort to get us further traction within these accelerator programs to make sure that we're putting
Mhm.
together or we're putting forth our best possible foot. And in the course of doing so, look, as a startup here, there's only so many resources that you currently have. And I don't want to say that we were ignoring or blatantly going ahead and disregarding the community that we've worked so hard to go ahead and build up. But I just had to prioritize like a little bit. And what had happened is, if you think about it, we've been live within the marketplace for 2018. So although we're still fairly young, and as a developer and somebody who's very adequate with technology yourself,
Mhm.
um, when you're developing code, you use a lot of APIs and a lot of source code, or shared source code, and a lot of stuff is proprietary as well. But once these things get outdated, it's not like the technology is completely obsolete or outdated, but in terms of getting the support that you need from these structures,
Mhm.
becomes harder.
Yep.
So we run into a system, or we came into an issue in where we've had a couple of old APIs. Our traffic is increasing, so the usage of the site needed, or to be able to support the increased usage of the site, needed to be updated. And some of the things that we're utilizing from a Tomcat perspective, as well from an Amazon Web Service perspective, um, APIs were still good, but we weren't getting the right support or enough support from those should something go wrong.
Right.
So the way that we were correcting the issue was, all right, you know what? Instead of trying to fix it and potentially screw up the dev work that we're doing to attract, partners within these accelerator programs, we've been resetting systems and utilizing, just at a high level, some band-aids and some quick, simple,
Mhm.
easy fixes to make sure that the platform was up and running.
Yeah.
So we started a project this past Monday, and where we ripped off all of the bandages that we've been putting together over the past couple of months, and really diving into and performing surgery on the platform.
Yep.
figuring out root causes of why these things are going on. How much do we need to increase kind of like our bandwidth to support the CPU? The CPU, what is it? Am I saying that right? Is it CCU or is it
CPU.
CPU usage coming
Yeah.
onto the platform? So we've been doing like a lot of that stuff here, and we thought that we were going to be able to do it without having any outages or service kind of like interruptions.
Sure.
Um, but in tinkering around with a couple of different things here, there was some login issues this past kind of like Monday, and as of kind of like Wednesday, there was basically just one API that just needed a complete kind of like rehaul, and it caused our system to go down. You were still able to access the Statement Games platform. You were still able to, see games that are within the lobby, but our timer kind of like hit triple zeros in the games. They just never came off the board. So
Right.
we just had to kind of like fix it. So as I'm talking to you, kind of like right now, and if you are watching this program, Statement Games is back up. I'm not going to really announce anything in the masses in the form of a mass email
Mhm.
blast or on social media such as Facebook and Twitter. Today is Friday. I want to see what happens today and make sure that there's no kind of issues heading into Saturday.
Yeah.
And if it kind of like passes the smoke test, so to speak, we'll formally announce that we're kind of like back up and running, kind of like Sunday, Monday.
Mhm.
And the good news is that hey, you know what? We're diving deeper into the architecture of statement games. So we think that the solutions that we're putting forth right now is, I mean, how many times are we actually going to talk about that Facebook connecting API that needs to be updated, that people still don't have the ability to log into like Facebook, or why the system is automatically kicking you out of the login process and
Mhm.
not letting you bag in without that type of reset happen. I mean, these things they sound simple, but you really need to allocate resources and do a deep dive into everything here onto why they're happening as opposed to
Yep.
just putting a band-aid on it and fixing it.
Absolutely. That's
So hopefully that
I mean,
gives you an idea of what the heck is kind of been going on. And I know it's a little bit more of a technical description, but hopefully the listeners have been able to follow along. By no way, shape, or means here am I a technical person. I can make myself sound like I know what I'm talking about, but when it comes to what's actually taking place behind the scenes here, I have no idea. Just so that people know, I'm not a coder. I'm kind of like an advertising and marketing and business development type of a guy here, so I'm trying to get these things fixed here, and I apologize for the delay, but it's not like one of those things here where I can actually dive into it myself and fix it. I needed help
yeah.
to resolve some of these issues, or a lot of
Yeah.
these issues,
Well,
actually all of these issues.
and I'm more of a front end coder, so I do
Yeah.
understand what's going on with the development and the team and kind of the understanding of the issues, but like I'm not a like I've had a conversation with your guy and very intelligent dude that knows what
Mhm.
he's doing. So I'm sure you're very trusting. But that's one thing that, as a business owner, most people don't understand. Of they think that, you set up a website, you do the code and it's static and it just maintains and it's a one-time thing. Where, for my company, I set up websites and I put together maintenance programs so that they
Yep.
don't go down, because and that's a program that's like a subscription where the business owner has to make payments on ongoing, because someone's got to be there monitoring, because all of these, your website always has to be updated first off, and that goes with any program, anything, technology changes, and so there are updates that have to be made. And then there's things that you're connected to where they've updated, and now you have a translation error that you have to address. So this is standard stuff for websites, technology, all that. And now that you're getting there to address it, that's really good. But startup life is a lot of I don't it to me, it reminds me of, whack-a-mole. Problem comes up
Yeah.
and you can hit it, and then there's another problem and you hit it, and sometimes, there's two moles, looking at you, and you only have the one mallet, so you gotta figure it out. Um, but what's the feedback been from the community since, you've had, the site go down or these issues? What have you been hearing, Mark?
Yeah, so just to kind of finish up like that last thought here, as part of the business development process here, we are now putting in stronger, exactly what you talked about. We call them, I guess, SLAs, or just service level agreements. It's pretty cool to actually see the infrastructure that's now being set up here, and where, as part of this SLA agreement, there's certain notifications that will, you know, be sent to me, and we'll just have like some type of awareness. All right, you know what, things are about to go down if you don't fix something like that here. So that type of leeway is always more refreshing. But getting into your question over here, which is, the feedback that I've been getting, it's a combination of the two here. But there's nothing more frustrating or embarrassing when you actually have to have one of your, better customers or players of like the platform tell you that, hey, you know what, this is broken. um,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be telling us these things here. We should actually be, getting that information firsthand, and serving them in a little bit more of a proactive way. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like, the feedback that I've been getting is as expected. It's very humbling to get the feedback, and where people, they want the business to do well, and they're rooting you on, and they're very kind of supportive and things like that. But as part of this one process here, I mean, I couldn't have come across a nicer guy. There was one individual. I'm not going to say his name. I don't know if he gives me permission to say it, I will. But he, had about, I'd say, close to $200 worth of gift card redemptions held up in queue for a period of 2 weeks.
Okay.
And which, at that particular point here, I mean, God bless him, because if that was me here, I would have freaking, torched the place, if
Yeah.
they're withholding kind of funds from me. But very supportive of the platform, saying, hey, look, what, the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I want you to know that what's going on. I've gotten confirmation from him over the past couple of days that things are, he's starting to see his gift cards being delivered to him. But there's things like that, and then there's other kind of feedback that aren't as pleasant, and it's well deserved. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't really fault them, or blame them for it. I mean, it's an issue. It has been an issue. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to win some of these guys back, but I'm sure in
Right.
certain particular ways we screwed up here. But if you take a look at the longer term vision of the organization with what I'm actually working on, I'd never want to say or come across as if dismissing subscribers, or people coming onto the platform here. But when, and I'm sure we'll get into this, when you have opportunities to take a look at PGA, Phillies,
Mhm.
opportunities like that, I gotta prioritize a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a
Just
lot of
being
the
honest,
time.
that's not to
Yeah.
dismiss anybody here, but we're working pretty hard over here to do something pretty special, and
Yeah. No,
we're getting
it's
close.
awesome.
Yeah.
I will say that, there was, a period, back when, there was even a minor issue that I had, and you've always taken care of your subscribers and your partners. So I think that you do a great job with that, and listening to the
Thank you.
community is important. Um so, talking a little more about the PGA tour and the Phillies, we spoke about the accelerators and hype last week. Looks like there's more good news that was posted on Twitter and different social medias. Talk a little bit and give some insight into what has happened and what's the more recent developments.
Yeah, so on the we had a selection day that was a little bit more specific towards broadcast media companies, as well as teams, leagues, clubs, and federations. And in that regards, the focus of that vertical was a little bit more on fan engagement. So we did kind of our pitches, and as we kind of discussed on the 31st of March, these companies kind of went in and had a draft, right? There was a
Mhm.
Zoom meeting that was organized. A lot of these participants then went on stage. And when I say participants, I'm talking about the actual, teams, leagues, clubs, federations, and media
Yeah.
broadcast companies. They rattled off, who they were most interested in working with in terms of a pilot. or
Yeah.
as part of like the accelerator program. And the condition of the draft was literally like a draft. If you get selected, you're in the program. If you're not, you pack your bags and you go home.
Mhm.
So on the 31st, we were selected by a broadcast media company operating out of Belgium called VRT. We talked about that, and we were also selected by the PGA Tour. So what that actually meant is that we had the ability to move forward within the program. So very exciting kind of news, for us. On the What was this past Monday? This past Monday was the 12th. So the 12th of kind of
Mhm.
April. There were two additional drafts. Um, the first particular draft was for companies that were more specific to esports.
Okay.
And there was some crossover from, I guess, the companies that were in the verticals that had their showcase on the 31st of March. But then there was also companies on the 12th of April that had a draft looking for solutions that were really specific towards sports betting.
Okay.
So kind of like on that day, it was a bit of a long shot, but I was actually drafted by a company called ESL. So any of the esports kind of like fanatics that are actually out there, ESL is one of the largest esports companies in the industry. So they had selected Statement Games as one of their pilot partners, all in an effort to help organize some ideas around the pilot that addressed fan engagement from an esports perspective. So we've done this past summer
Yeah.
some esports stuff like around NBA 2K. So that experience during the heat or the thick of COVID-19, I really think helped showcase our talents and our vision in other things outside of the core sports kind of vertical. But then in the sports betting vertical, there were actually 9 companies that were part of that vertical. And of course, Statement Games was one of probably about 20 to 22 organizations as part of that vertical in pitching. And in that vertical, we were actually drafted by Sinclair Broadcasting Group, which we've talked about
Nice.
before on this
Mhm.
show. We were drafted by Rogers Media, which are obviously the owners of the Toronto Blue Jays. We were drafted by DAZN, which are
Mhm.
doing a lot of great things. If you've seen some news on DAZN, they just signed a massive contract with the Italian Soccer League, just in terms of
Okay.
streaming, soccer games on the DAZN platform. They are a subscription-based service, but here in the U.S., they're probably a little bit more known for boxing. A lot of
Okay.
boxing events are kind of streamed. So instead of going to pay per view, you might actually have to go to like ESPN Plus or DAZN to watch those boxing pay per views. We were also drafted by 888 Sport Holdings. So this is $1 billion organization. They're very much well in line with FanDuel and DraftKings. They actually have the exclusive betting rights or gambling rights to the NFL over in Europe. So any
Okay.
type of bet on the NFL that's placed over in Europe goes through these guys. And we were also selected by the Philadelphia Phillies. So in that
I'm
particular
sure you're
vertical,
thrilled about that.
it's excitement. We're a couple of days kind of past it now. It's just a new level of anxiety that kind of now starts to creep in. I mean, we're entrepreneurs here. We're never
Yeah.
satisfied with
Oh, yeah.
anything. You know.
Well,
So what
I'm
was
just
kind of
thinking your love for Philly sports.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, we've talked about it like in the last
You do
making
well
pick
in
stuff.
Philly.
Phillies, I don't mind. I mean, that's more of like a New York Met problem. I'm more of like a
Oh,
Yankee
okay.
fan. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Phillies.
Okay.
So, but yes, you're right. Nonetheless, it is Philadelphia sports team, and as
Got
we've
to
talked
poke
about in
you
the
a little
last
bit.
making pick show here, there's just like a hotbed of synergy between Statement Games and Philadelphia area, media companies
Yeah.
and resources. But was something that I'm kind of proud of. I will go ahead and take a second to pat myself on the back. I mean, to hell with it. I feel that I deserve it. I've been beat up enough for the week on the platform challenges, so this is how I build myself up here. But if I take a look at the sports betting vertical and
Yeah.
hype, 5 selections of the 9 companies that were part of that vertical. There wasn't another startup within that sports betting vertical that was selected more times than Statement Games in that
Nice.
vertical. So I think that's kind of like a tribute to the different types of gaming technology that we actually have, and how it is conducive to the sports betting landscape. And I thought it's kind of like ironic, because I think we've been standing on our soapbox here for a while now, kind of touting how we're not a gambling company, but it seems like we have the most synergy and not the most rapport with gambling related
Right.
challenges and things like that here. So I mean, go figure. I think that's kind of part of startup life as well, and where you might think you have a solution that's specific to fan engagement. And I don't want to say we struck out in fan engagement verticals, because we did have some traction, some success in those verticals.
Yeah.
But bringing back things into sports betting and things like that here, we were ahead. Nobody was
Yeah.
better than us.
Well, I mean, what's exciting about it is just the change from like a few months ago when you were going through what was the last accelerator there? Um
Stadia, yeah,
Stadia, and you kind of felt a little defeated after that. And
yes,
you went
yep.
you picked yourself back up and you went forward with
It
hype,
was
and
quick.
now you're yeah,
Yeah, I'm not that I mean, look, I mean, Stadia was another highly, and we did make their top 10, but it's almost like, all right, you know what? You have that fantasy football game, or that game where you just get blown out. That's kind of like the
yeah,
feeling that you actually have. But the good thing with hype was that we didn't have a lot of time to dwell on the defeat. If we wanted
yeah,
to participate and really move forward with that type of program, we had to get back on the horse almost immediately. I mean, around kind of like the time of hype selections and getting to be part of that process, that was initially dwindled down from about 1,400 applicants into 70. There were some one-on-one interviews that we actually had to have with hype, and then going from
mhm,
70 to 30 was a process. So I mean, what we I think we got the official no from Stadia first week of February. Does that sound right?
yeah.
I think it was the
That
first
sounds
week of
about right.
February.
Yeah.
And bringing up kind of Stadia, I'm actually getting, because again, I'm staying engaged with those guys. I'm getting notifications from them, basically encouraging me or asking for my thoughts on if Statement Games would be willing to participate in their fall program, which it looks like a lot of the decisions are going to be made in kind of like tail end of May, June. So
Okay.
it's another decision that I'm going to have to make fairly soon on whether we want to run through the Stadia Gauntlet again.
Right.
There's a
Well,
lot.
I
I mean, we'll see what
wonder,
happens.
and this is maybe even just an off-screen conversation, but I wonder if with your success now with hype, if that translates, because you did make a messaging change going into hype,
Correct.
based off of what you heard from
Correct.
Stadia. You've gotten success from that, and that might snowball into utilizing that new messaging plus your success into something with Stadia. Um, that what do you think as far as the last since that denial, um what your what that opportunity might look like, or just what your feelings are on it?
You know what, man? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to kind of answer that right now. I'm. Hey, this is why I kind of I talk things out with advisors, kind of like guys like you. Of course, I have my partner, Jonathan, who we're
Hmm.
thinking about it. But some of the things that we actually discussed prior to the start of the show here, we were actually just going through basic strategies on what's being presented to the PGA, right? This past particular week, I've actually submitted additional platform type proposals to BetMGM, as well
Hmm.
as the AAU basketball kind of league, which is obviously kind of pretty big here. So I'm getting kind of more opportunities, and not that I'm begging for charity or for anybody to feel bad for us here. There's literally only a handful of people that are working on this here, and I think my concern, kind of with jumping back into the Stadia, is that I'm not going to have the right resources to put my best foot forward. And if I did put
Hmm.
my best foot forward, does that potentially distract from the pilot opportunities that I now have with these 8 companies that I've just rattled off here?
Yeah.
The decision or the thought process was a lot different last week. Last week, we only had 2 opportunities that we were pursuing. which was VRT, as well as the PGA. Now there's eight.
Yeah.
So to kind of like do that and to go through the whole steady process again is it's not impossible. Gun to the head, and if I had to make a decision right now, I probably said that I will be doing it again. But before making a final decision, I just want to give it some more thought.
Absolutely. So going back a little bit just to really kind of make sure our audience knows the difference between the different verticals that you guys were in.
Yes.
Obviously you had different successes based off the different verticals, but what were the main what were these companies looking for when it came to, the sports betting vertical versus the fan engagement vertical versus esports? What were their major or main things that they were trying to tackle?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if you boil it down kind of like in a nutshell, a lot of their core challenges were similar. It was just addressed from a different perspective. So, for example, there's big. It, when I kind of like look at this over here, it's almost like me kind of like having to answer, hey, what's the difference between statement games and FanDuel?
Yeah,
We're a different game. You know,
right.
we're a different kind of service. So when you take a look at the core challenges, a lot of these guys, the core challenges are, hey, you know what? How do we address fan engagement? How do
Mhm.
we actually, and this is a little bit more from a sports betting vertical and from an esports vertical, and where the education of betting terminology or understanding, what parlays are, over under kind of prop bets, to the casual sports fan, it's a little bit of an intimidating process to come in front of these things here. How to actually push the buttons, what does all this
Mhm.
stuff mean? Over under point spreads.
Yeah.
I just want to pick who kind of wins the game. So there's things like that. So there's an educational process that you need to take the end user through. And we've talked about this, many times kind of like before, and where the challenge kind of like becomes, all right, you know what? If I'm going to put up money into this FanDuel account or DraftKings account or Bet88 Sport or MGM thing here, I mean, I don't feel comfortable doing it right now because I don't know what I'm doing. So how do
Mhm.
we actually educate the casual fan market so that they become more comfortable with that type of stuff here? So it's fan engagement, gaming. Let's just call that challenge gaming. Can I get education and fan
Mhm.
engagement, gaming, education over here? I mean, these things they sound good, they look good, right? But how does a brand like Bet88 Sport or the Phillies, how do they monetize that today? If there's no
Yeah.
money coming in for people to fund kind of like accounts here, if I'm taking people through these fan engagement kind of like challenges and educational challenges, how do I generate revenue for my organization for that today? So, and those are universally, and at various different scales, are kind of like the core challenges that I've identified within all these verticals. Now, obviously, when you take
Gotcha.
a look at esports and sports betting, they're again, like the statement, it's a completely different game. There's a big difference between esports and baseball. There's a big difference between fan engagement in the form of, hey, you know what, like the kiss cam, like on the
Yeah.
jumbos. That's a form of fan engagement. Artificial intelligence, watching highlights and different things like that. Here, it's not necessarily sports betting, but those are forms of fan engagement, like tools and processes. So fan engagement, you had a lot more competition and companies like that were solving for fan engagement through different forms of artificial intelligence, different widgets, different content kind of like solutions, and where sports betting was a little bit more focused on, yeah, it touches fan engagement, but this is, hey, ultimately we got to get people to fund kind of like real money in gaming accounts. How do we go ahead and do that? Esports was
Sure.
more kind of like fan engagement, but it's all right. You know what? How do we kind of get people even more engaged with our brand as they're watching? People basically play video games. So hopefully that kind of like gave a little bit of a high level overview between the differences
Yeah,
between the stuff
absolutely.
here.
So, with your experience leading up to this, going through these accelerators and figuring out your process, um, what would you have? What kind of tips would you have for someone that might be watching this, thinking about like maybe applying for their first accelerator program, or even just trying to better understand the whole situation and process of being a small, an entrepreneur looking into these kind of programs, what kind of tips do you have for the success that you've achieved?
I mean, for us, as I kind of like went through like these processes and had an opportunity to watch like other pitches and things like that, I'll raise my hand and actually say that from a, I guess you can call it a pitch deck, like a PowerPoint presentation perspective, in
Mhm,
terms of the design of that presentation, there were definitely some other, um, I guess, startups that I felt had
mhm,
better pitch decks than me. But I feel that we had achieved the success that we achieved because it was being able to not necessarily take product information in core industry terminology, but basically kind of like weaving a story kind of like into that. So when I kind of tell our story, I talk about how it's a family originated concept. I've been playing it kind of since I was a kid. I give kind of examples of how you know the engagement that I actually got from a game drove me to purchase X, Y, Connecticut, and Z Connecticut product. Um, and just, hey, you know what? And if you engage with the Statement Games platform here, these are some of the high level Connecticut data points that you have access to. We can give it to you in the raw format data. It's weaved in. It's like the narrative. It's really
yeah.
being able to tell a story around kind of like your product as opposed to here it is, this is what it does, and do you want to click yes and no? I think people they want an opportunity to get to know who you are as a founder and what's kind of like driving you. I think it's it's not the
So,
most important things here, but they are important things that these programs and investors want to see as you're going through this process.
so it's almost like you made a connection with the people that you were pitching to, rather than just saying
I
like
think so.
having pretty graphics and
I think so. I mean, look, I mean, and basically you have 4 minutes to do it. So it's
yeah,
not like you have unlimited slides to kind of like go ahead and show. Now it's hard to really kind of like show what Statement Games is from a product perspective in 2 slides.
yeah,
But telling the story around those 2 slides is a little bit different, and it's a lot easier for us to go ahead and do. So
gotcha.
that's where I actually think kind of like resonates, and I guess the other part of it is, look, we took a lot of lumps. We took and we discussed this kind of like last week. We took lumps, a lot of lumps, even leading up to Stadia, which was a crushing collectible blow. It's taking the nose and basically begging for the feedback as to why somebody was actually told no.
Mhm.
I'm still being told no, kind of on a daily basis from an investment kind of perspective. But now my story is kind of stronger. I have things that I can point to in terms of being selected by organizations that are, I mean, in a way, I mean, for the purpose of this program here, it's not like they're extensive cash-driven contracts that have come out of it, but that's kind of the opportunity. How many companies can actually say startup companies with employee base of 2.5,
Hmm.
revenues under 100K
Yeah,
can say that they're now working with the Philadelphia Phillies, Sinclair Broadcasting, 888 Sport, the PGA kind of like tour. That's a story, that's kind of like
right.
storyline. That's another bullet that's gone into the holster that I'm now kind of like firing. I didn't have
Mhm.
that story. I didn't have that aspect of the storyline 2 weeks ago. I do now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, okay, so like let's talk a little bit about those guys that you got selected, and really we got to talk about the big one. The one that, we've had coverage of, when they acquired Bally's, and now
Mhm.
that's changed into like there's a Bally's channel, like, broadcasting sports now. And you got picked by Sinclair.
Yeah,
And you've been targeting them for months. Uh, has it?
told no by them on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
So finally, yeah, finally it
How does
was
it
it was a
feel to
yes.
be moving forward with them?
again, if you would have asked me this question probably like on Monday or Tuesday, I would have been kind of like ecstatic. Now that I'm talking about it like right now, I'm nervous as all, kind of like hell, because now you gotta deliver. It's
Yeah.
it's I don't want to compare myself to an NFL coach or something like that, but you always kind of like hear the same scenario. You're always miserable. I mean,
Mhm.
you're always looking for what's next. You always kind of like want more, and that's kind of like like
Yeah.
a driving factor of it.
So
So
it's
I'm sorry,
speaking
Dad.
on that NFL coach, speaking on the NFL coach analogy, I want to know, do you feel more Urban Meyer level of needing to succeed, or Ted Lasso?
More like freaking Belichick. I'm just a grumpy fuck who is, you get kind of like some success here, and it's, hey, you know what? I'm talking to some people about it who are encouraging me. Look, you got to celebrate the little wins here, like the victories.
Mhm.
But you celebrate it. But what is it? I'm on to Cincinnati, or I'm on to Monday, or
Right, you're on to the next.
you're on to tomorrow, or something like that. Here, that's kind of like
Yeah.
how you have to look at it. So it's a great opportunity. Obviously, we've again talked about that opportunity before in the past. They do have a great partnership in place with Bally Sports. Sinclair Broadcasting owns it's either 24 or 26 Fox Sports regional
Mhm.
networks that as of what was it? I think it was April 1st. As of April 1st, all of those Fox Sports outlets have rebranded as Bally Sports.
Mhm.
So being selected by Sinclair is not an opportunity to work with one organization. I'm looking at it as an opportunity to work with 26 different little outlets. These different media kind of companies or broadcasting kind of networks. Um, I think, and I'm going back a long time ago, and where I actually did a lot of direct mail advertising and marketing in the cable space here. These regional networks, they act like their own individual little companies. They follow the
Mhm.
direction, and they you know uh, seek the guidance of corporate kind of HQ. And I think some of
Yep.
them will do exactly what HQ kind of says. But I'm looking at this as an opportunity, and where there's now 26 additional, 24, 26 additional opportunities that we got our foot in the door. And if I can actually get a pilot launched with one of them,
Mhm.
obviously it makes it that much easier to knock down that second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and all the way up down the line. And as
Yeah.
precedent has already been established, um, I'm now kind of like knocking on the foot doors of an organization that has recently just bought out another fantasy sports platform for 90 million bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's
So these are the things that
getting.
I'm kind of thinking about. So you
Yeah.
think, oh yeah, it's awesome, you're exciting, but now you're thinking, what if I fuck this up here? My my dream or your opportunity, you're taking a step back
Well,
here. So
that's
it's
kinda.
it's just a different set of nerves.
Yeah, what's going into, my coaching analogy, you got Urban Meyer, he's coming in with, like, the big guns, and like, ready to steamroll, and there's, like, a expectation of success, versus Ted Lasso, that kind of under the radar, and is gonna come in and blow up. Like, do you feel that, these companies are looking at you going like, wow, this guy is, going, like, they have an expectation that you're gonna come in and you wow them, or do you feel a little more of the underdog?
Um, you know what? That's a pretty interesting kind of point. Me personally, I always view us as the underdog. But
Yeah.
given that we actually just won this sports betting vertical, um, maybe there's larger kind of expectations now, or higher expectations, just given the I guess clout that we've been given. Because look, all these people watch, they see who other companies are selecting. So maybe it's piggybacking, validation. We'll have to kind of see what happens. But
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
um, yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll have to go ahead and see.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next steps. The next steps is actually talking to these guys, and starting the process. And you've begun that with your first call on Tuesday with the PGA Tour. How did that go?
Yeah, it was encouraging. I was actually, if again you would have asked for that same, underdog or favorite type of question like a couple days ago with relation specifically to the PGA, um, I would have said that we were an underdog. I mean, there's probably some other companies that they're looking at, but I know, of one or two of the companies that I was competing with for a pilot program. I did have confirmation from my contact at the PGA that, let's just say that the solutions that were presented to them were not necessarily in line with expectations. And again,
Yeah,
just like there may have been some technical challenge with it. So I now feel that the opportunity with the PGA is ours for us to lose. I feel
nice.
very strongly about it, and one of the challenges that I'm kind of like looking at right now is really just digging down. All right, you know what we got. We got our foot in the door. We have a high level overview of what our technology and potential pilot program would look like. Now we just need to drill down and figure out what the steps are. I'll just go ahead and share my screen real quick just to kind of like give you
Mhm.
guys an idea of what we're kind of like looking at. But yeah, I mean, for as a pilot, I mean, you kind of like have your PJ kind of like tour right here. Up here you actually have a little tab that's called fantasy, and over here you have a couple of games that they're touting, which is their own fantasy golf game. Obviously, a game that can be played via kind of like DraftKings. So I'm looking at an environment where there would be a third button that's going to be placed kind of like somewhere like over here. You click on it, and then you're going to be going into a PGA Tour branded environment. But you're going to be playing, a game that's powered by Statement Games. So that's at a high level, kind of like what I'm looking at.
Nice. That's really awesome. And being able to have, that real estate on the PGA website is going to be huge, even just for brand awareness.
Well, again, and it's also it's a pilot. I mean, we're kind of like looking at
Mhm.
an environment. I guess you can stop sharing the screen. We're looking
Yeah,
at an environment in where there's there's a significant number of,
beta.
it's like a digital testing kind of community. And let's just say that basically they'll go out to this testing community to try different things and give them kind of feedback
Hmm.
on what the PGA Tour is thinking about like rolling out.
Yeah.
And let's just say that this community is pretty much about the size of my existing B2C community. That's their testing community. So we're looking to, give them the ability to test things like this. They'll give feedback on whether, hey, what, this game is cool, unique, or concept of the platform is acceptable, not acceptable. And
Yeah.
if they like it, I mean, that's where the opportunities to do something, more extensively with the PGA kind of going to run. But
Mhm.
as the coaching mentality kind of plays back in here, there is the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, this thing's a piece of garbage, and no, thumbs down. And here's the
Well,
reason why we don't like it. So that's
yeah, you're getting essentially a influx of new users getting their first look at the platform, and you're going to have the opportunity to get data from that at a large scale
correct
to really
at a large
see
scale.
where's the weaknesses, where's the strengths, and understanding your product even better. From, this isn't, hey, we just had like a new user sign up today, let me talk to them, and so you're getting one opinion. This is a point where you're getting like population data and stuff, so that you can say, like, from a wide range of backgrounds and use cases and whatever, um what are their opinions. And you can, because there's always a variation of really positive feedback and really negative feedback. But when you have a lot of people coming in at once and a lot of data points, you can average those out and really see, what's the truth.
Hey, it's a great test. It's a great opportunity. It's but hopefully you get a better understanding of great opportunity, exciting and things like that here. But now I'm freaking nervous as crap.
Yeah,
To make sure that
well,
everything kind of goes right.
Yeah, so let's dive into those nerves a little bit. Any other challenges this week that are worth mentioning for you?
I mean, let's see here. It's really making sure that we're getting through the weekend and entering kind of like Monday with more stability around kind of like our core B2C kind of platform. So that's something that kind of like working on. And it's literally it's 8 opportunities that I'm now moving forward with as part of this accelerator program. There's now new mentors that are coming on board as part of the hype accelerator program. So it's a lot of calls. It's a lot of calls. It's a lot of tedious, deep thinking. It's a lot of mapping out what these programs kind of like look like, and
Yeah,
it's being able to execute on it. So those are the core kind of challenges that I'm facing, and I actually need to solve all these things under a with a budget that's extremely limited, so to
yeah,
speak. So that's in a nutshell. That's what I'm most concerned with as of right now.
gotcha. All right. Well, so let's switch gears a little bit. Talk about the platform itself. You got any upcoming contests or giveaways?
Um, there'll be some stuff that's coming out here. I mean, we'll put out this video kind of today, but I actually got two. I got two Yankee tickets, so we'll put this up here. I know that's
Okay.
going to be like a little bit of a time crunch and things like that, but we'll put this video out here. If you're actually fortunate enough to be watching this video and you drop your username, Statement Games username, and just a little comment on this video, like below, um, I'll give you two Yankee tickets to the game tonight. It's Friday. Today is what's today? Today's the 20th. What's today's date?
16th.
Today, see, I guess that can kind of be another challenge that I'm also just making sure that I'm aligned with what freaking date is actually it is.
Trust
So
me, I
today is the
understand.
16th. The Yankees are playing the Tampa Bay Rays tonight here. Interact with the video in the form of a comment as well as dropping your username, your Statement Games username in the comment section here. And you'll probably have a couple hours, but as long as you can actually, show that you've gotten the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, or don't
Yep.
have a problem in getting a rapid test, the 2 free tickets to the Yankee game tonight are all yours. I guess that will
Well,
be the contest for this week.
gotcha. All right. Um, so let's see. What's the plans for making picks? And then I've got a final question to go out on. But what are we looking at for the next episode of making picks?
I think we might be able to squeeze one in for this weekend. Let's get through kind of today and tomorrow,
Mhm.
and you and I will probably sync up here. If we want to do something real quick for Sunday, we'll go ahead and do so. If not, we'll just wait for next week. But in the Statement Games lobby right now, we do have our 2021 NFL Draft Tournament up here. So whether it's going to be this week or next week here, we're going to have to do a little making picks show around that. I think let me just take a quick look here. When is the draft? Is it 18 days away? When
Yeah,
is the NFL draft? I know we're
it's the last 2 days of the month plus May 1st.
13 days. The NFL draft is 13 days away. So
Gotcha.
we'll either do it next week or if not the week after that. So we'll actually have either a hockey game or a basketball game for either Sunday or Monday. But
Yeah.
then I don't know. I think we got to dive in and find the ringer. We'll review our Masters picks and be good to
Yep.
to talk a little football.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to get back into talking about football here. Um, but okay, so the final question to go out on here, we're right in the 50-minute mark, so we've done a good pacing for the show. DMX, man,
Yeah.
how are you feeling about that passing?
You know what? It's for the people who are watching it, making picks. We actually tried that intro song that we were kind of like pulling in to Statement Games. I still got to figure out a way to actually make that work like a little bit more seamless. That was a DMX song, so I just kind of can remember from
Mhm.
like a gaming perspective. One of our favorite songs from a Kappa Sig fraternity perspective, going back to my college days back at Towson University. There were many times in where I don't know. I mean, down kind of go there, bars closed kind of like around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and there were, I don't know how the hell we actually did it, many a times, and where from Baltimore we would leave the bar maybe last call around 1:15, instead of kind of going home, just get in that car and make the almost like 2.5, 3 hour drive through Atlantic City, and to keep ourselves up awake at night here to gamble and to keep kind of the juices flowing. We would blast the DMX kind of intro song. So it's just,
Gotcha.
I mean, 50 is way too, it's way too young. But
Mm,
just a lot of fond memories, going back to my collegiate kind of days, listening to like that artist, and just a good kind of lot of good hype songs that came from that artist. So yeah, little depressing, and
yeah.
hey, I'm getting old. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, yeah. No, we all are. But with
Although
that,
if I go at 50, I'm gonna be pretty freaking pissed off. I can tell you that right now.
yeah, I don't want to think about that. But things to think about for the audience, make sure that you're following Statement Games on all social media. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Statement Games Inc., as well as play the game, statementgames.com, also in your mobile app store. And, be sure to check out Making Picks when we get to the next episode, which sounds like we're doing the NFL draft. So with
Sounds like a
that,
plan.
Mark, good talking to you again, and a lot of great stuff going on for Statement Games.
Hey, we'll catch up. We'll definitely catch up next week, uh, with either making picks and Statement Games Live, if not both. But
Yep.
we'll see. I think we're pretty much committed moving forward here, and where worst case scenario, Statement Games Live is at least going to be every other week.
Right. Yeah. When there's updates and stuff, which is good.
Updates
So,
like
all
that.
right, man. With that, let's
All
go.